Picture this. You're an artist. You could be any kind of artist, painter, a writer, a musician. You sit down at your workstation to try to think of something to make, but nothing comes to mind. Oh no, what do? Have you ever been in this situation before? I know I have. Of the many hurdles that artists face, art block is one of the toughest, and it's one that's been around since time immemorial. In this video, I want to propose a solution. I've devised a step-by-step guide for you to get inspired to create something, and never run out of ideas. I'll also show you an example of how I applied it to my ongoing webcomic at the end. Step 1. Find something from your own life that matters to you. In visual art, it's common advice to draw from life in order to get the best results. I think that the same is true for any other type of art too. If you're writing a story, for example, try to tie it to an experience that you had that made you feel a strong emotion. Why should you do this? Because no one will ever know exactly what it's like to be you, and art is all about communicating that experience to other people. No one will ever have your exact life, so there's a good chance that if you do this, your story will be more original. But I should add, you might not want it to be too original, which ties into one of the later steps that we'll get to in a bit. Step 1A. If step 1 fails, have new experiences and try new things until you find something that matters to you. Also, you should probably talk to a therapist. Step 2. Remix it. Now, there's nothing wrong with nonfiction or memoirs, don't get me wrong, but personally, I have more experience making art in the realm of fiction, so that's what we'll be focusing on in this video. In order to heighten the intrigue of whatever piece of art you're making, add some sort of twist or fantasy element. I find that the easiest way to do this is via allegory. Take all the themes and elements of the story and try to find symbols, scenes, or motifs to represent them. Doing this allows your story to have its own language of sorts that can then be understood or interpreted by the viewer. The more that you follow these rules, the more accessible your story will be, but you don't strictly have to follow them. Keeping things vague can be cool too. Also, I don't recommend having your story include real people in it. There's nothing wrong with being inspired by people IRL, but if you do, try to change up a few things, or even take inspiration from multiple people and blend them together into one character. For something like visual art, it's a bit more simple. The most important thing to focus on are your subject matter and the principles of design. Following or breaking the quote-unquote rules of art isn't what's important, it's the intent behind it. Step 3. Take inspiration from other pieces of media that you haven't made that inspire you. What are some of your favorite pieces of media? What shows, games, or movies have inspired you and affected you the most? Take a closer look at them and study what makes them so good. Then, try to incorporate that into your own work, without outright plagiarizing them. We're thinking of broad strokes here, nothing specific. The cool thing about this is that it's applicable to any medium of art that you want. It's also nice because you can incorporate references into your work for more astute viewers. I especially like this in the context of themes in story writing. You can intentionally call back to a symbol that represents something in another piece of media, and then connect that back to a motif in your own work, creating a web of meaning. This is another thing that helps make your artwork more accessible. Step 4. Do research. This step is pretty simple. If you're trying to create something that you have no knowledge of, learn about it. In the context of visual art, this could mean doing studies and drawing from reference. If you're writing a story that involves, for example, a war, then peruse Wikipedia until you have a solid understanding of what your next steps are. You can also tie this step back into the previous steps. Let's stick with the concept of war for this example. You can look for popular pieces of media involving war, and then reference certain motifs that show up in those pieces of media that tie back into your story. The more research you do, the more accurate your art will be. And in this case, accuracy equals accessibility. Now I want to give an example of how I applied these steps to my webcomic, Sin Like Me. There's a link in the description if you want to read it. When I came up with the idea for the story, I was trying to figure out why all my relationships kept failing, and was using the comic as a means of self-inquiry and self-discovery. That's another good thing about this method. It teaches you a lot about yourself. I tried looking for the commonalities between all my relationships to discover the underlying pattern and solve it. I used allegory and symbolism to represent certain concepts and ideas that kept occurring in my life. As for what inspired me, I really like psychological pieces of media like Neon Genesis Evangelion, Serial Experiments Lain, and Mulholland Drive, for example. However, I didn't want my story to be too confusing, so I focused on making it as accessible as possible. And later on, I did a lot of research on various religions, Christianity in particular, as I began to develop a fictional religion inside the story. This kind of fed into the previous step, as I ended up including some biblical references in the later parts of the story too. Well, there you have it. That's my 4-step process for creating art and getting over art block. I want to mention that these steps don't have to be linear if you don't want them to be. You can do them in any order. And you don't even have to follow this guide if you don't want to. There are truly no rules to art, and there's no wrong way of going about it. I just made this guide because 1, I've been through art block before, and I wanted to try to help myself and others, and 2, structure can be helpful sometimes. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Goodbye!